we all have our own biases of how things work. Like, how would I design things? Like, why would I design things in a certain way? Because in my head, I'm the one who's gonna use it. But in reality, right, what about everybody else? How are they gonna use this product?
In your team, you need to create that safe space that they can say whatever they want to say within the context of work pa rin, syempre. Like, if there's a certain process that needs to be cut, or if they think that we're having too many meetings in a week, sige, let's consider removing some.
Most of us are using mobile devices. Most of us are spending time online. So cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Inclusive design is thinking about, would everyone be able to interact with that park?
We are smart citizens, and let's become smarter together.
And incorporate these practices into your everyday routine.
We really need to help, any possible way that we can.
Because so many of these people out there are suffering, and we're just very blessed.
Women need to feel that they're in the presence of other reliable, responsible, and justice-driven women to further fuel their drive to excel.
If you're improving 1% a day, you'll improve 365% by the end of the year.
Tech is accessible for every Filipino youth, regardless of their gender or socioeconomic status.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so first and foremost, thanks to Women Tech Makers for inviting me to give a talk, of course, on personal branding. Thanks to Queenie and G for inviting me over and talking about something I'm passionate about. So I'm just gonna start my presentation. Oops, sorry. Percent. Okay, so can everyone see that? Okay. So today I want to talk to you about personal branding. So a lot of people say personal branding nowadays, right? Like, ano ba yung personal branding na yan? And a lot of people will try to talk about or say that uh, we don't have personal brands, right? Because we're humans. I agree with that, to be honest. It's only been recently that we needed a term to describe what personal brand wants to portray. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that, right? So, ano ba yung personal branding? What's a personal brand? Can you eat it? Like, is it meat? um, can you search for it? Can you search for personal brand? Um, will I be able to search for my personal brand at some point? Right. But what I think a personal brand is what do people see when they think of you? So let's take a moment to pause and think about it, right? When they say your name, what do people think about? What picture comes into their mind? I think that's what the personal brand is. So, how about me, right? Why am I even here? What's my personal brand like? So, to me, uh, people would probably think of me when they think about podcasts, right? Because I've been very into um, producing content for other designers through my podcast called Roots, right? So maybe when they think of the name Alexis, oh, it's the guy who made Roots or produces Roots every week, who invites designers and talks to them, interviews them every week. So probably that's my personal brand. Um, some people from my school might know me for um, starting a student club called UX Society, right? And I've been really engrossed in helping educate like the next generation of designers, design leaders in the industry. Or some people might think of me as, a product designer, designing features, products, digital products for the company I work for called Kalibrr. Um, and your personal brand is an amalgamation of a lot of different things, and I think for whatever I have built so far, this is my personal brand, right? uh, I didn't think of this out of nowhere. This is what I've been getting feedback on when people think of me, right? When I don't even ask people, like it just comes to me, like, oh, it's Alexis, the podcaster, right? So I think that's how I've built my personal brand. So I think, products, services, companies, they have brands. I don't think it's right for us to call it a brand. But to put it simply, our personal brand is our story. What's your story? Right? I think it's a better way of getting to know someone when you ask someone to introduce themselves, right? You can ask them, "What's your story?" Right? "What's your story, Alexis?" Or to whoever you're talking to. Uh, and again, to put it simply, when people talk about personal branding, aside from their story, I think it's their professional reputation. So it's your reputation. And that's difficult to grasp, right? Because a reputation is built through so many factors. And to me, your story and your reputation is based on or is predicated on three things. First, the quality of your work, right? So the quality of whatever you're doing, maybe the stuff you do for your day job, um, for your side projects or whatever. What's the quality of that? That directly ties to your reputation, your story, and your personal brand, right? So, of course, we can't be all about work. We can't all be about quality. Uh, it's not all about um, the level of work we give to the table. It's also the relationships that we build with people. What's the quality of relationships that we have? Um, so, to put it simply, do people like you? Are you likable? Do you like other people? And what have you done for other people? And how did that elevate the level of your relationship? And how many relationships, great relationships, do you have with people, right? So it's a matter of how many people have you helped? How many people maybe have you mentored? Or how many problems have you solved for other people, right? So, and that directly ties to the relationship part. So you can also kind of think of it as what's your relationship with different communities around you, with professional organizations, nonprofit organizations, your immediate neighborhood, and you can think about it as well, as for yourself. What are the relationships in your life, and that directly ties to your story and your reputation. And um, finally, this is what I'm very passionate about. What is your value to others? What is your value to your community? What value are you providing? What value are you creating? I'll get into this a bit more later, but these three components, these serve as the foundation of your story and your reputation. So why is it important? Why do we need to think about our reputation, our story, or as people like to call it, your personal brand? So the CEO of Amazon, everyone knows Jeff Bezos. He says, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And if that's the case, then it's incredibly important to take control of your story, about carefully crafting how people should talk about you or how people should look at you, by doing several things. And we're going to go through that later. What's the point of having strong stories? So I'm going to pause a bit just to drink. So when you have a strong story, when you have a strong professional reputation, or when you have a strong personal brand, there are tons of benefits that can come your way. So first is it creates opportunities. You'll be given invites to talk. Sometimes when you have a strong personal brand, it gives you preference for leadership positions. Um, it gives you recognition. Uh, it allows collaborations to happen. People invite you to speak. People invite you to teach. People invite you to basically say what you have to say. Uh, say your thoughts. Whatever you're thinking. And people sort of have a preference to choose you versus others. That's the reality. So you're kind of getting some sort of differentiation, and because of that, opportunities come to you, right? So aside from that, it attracts your tribe. So for me, right, I have lots of interests, but I'm very passionate about design, and that means I could attract other like-minded people, like-minded designers, growth-minded people into my network, into my uh, circle of influence, right? So it actually doesn't matter what you're into. So, for example, if you're into Dota 2, Animal Crossing, or whatever, if you show signals, if you give signals to other people that you're interested in that, then you're more likely to attract your kind. That's just how it goes, right? So, for example, you're also a community organizer. You're more likely to attract other community organizers your way. If you're a content creator, you also attract other content creators for some reason. Uh, I'm really into badminton because I post about it. For some reason, I get connected to other badminton players without really looking for them. So the third is, which is very important. I think this is the reason why people should be taking control of their story and their narrative. It's because it brings the job to you. That means the opportunities come to you. Sometimes you don't have to look for it. So because of the story you craft, the story you create, sometimes it generates enough interest into you as a person, into whatever you're doing. And it translates to things like freelance work, consulting opportunities, referrals to join companies. Uh, when people are looking for co-founders to start their new product or service, their new agency, their new company, because you created your story and it's compelling enough, people prefer you. People prefer to partner with you, right? So it's when people ask, "Oh, who's the best at blank? Who's the best at design? Who's the best at development? Who's the best at quality assurance?" Um, of course, if you're not so intentional about your story, then it's less likely that you're going to be the answer. You're going to be the top of mind, right? When people ask that question. So the last thing is you can capture value. This is sort of, I would say, very advanced when you're thinking about your personal brand or whatever, your story. You can build it up to the point that you can generate or you can create 1,000 true fans. Like these 1,000 true fans will follow you wherever you go. If you create a product, if you create a service, if you start something, they're more likely to, or like 100%, they will buy it. They will join. Um, Capturing value means you can monetize your work, right? So you can create digital products, you can create memberships, subscriptions, You can monetize your stuff. You can start a service. Think about what you're good at, and if you craft your story enough, people will come to you for that specific skill. Okay. So the thing is, your story, it's there, even if you do something about it or not, right? It's not, you're not going to magically have a great story out of nowhere. You're going to have to build it. It doesn't appear out of nowhere. It doesn't magically appear out of nowhere. But it is true that either you work on it or not, you have a story. So the problem is, if you don't take control of your story, other people will tell your story for you. That's the problem here. And I don't really believe it when people say your work speaks for itself, or that when people say, oh, you just have to build it and people will come. No, that doesn't happen in real life. So that means you just have to take control of your story. That means learning how to market yourself and being very intentional. So it's your story, and that means you have to write it. You have to tell your story. So there are other counter arguments to being very intentional, curated, maybe with your feed or whatever. Like, what about the memes? Right? So my answer to that is that you don't have to give up the memes. That's part of your story. If you really want that to be part of your story, then that's your choice. It's your self-expression, right? Taking control of your story is kind of more subtle. So other people might think also that, oh, am I artificial? I'm a robot. I'm not human. So there are a breed of personal branding people who are really 100% into it, right? So that's their choice. You can choose to be like that. But I think a true personal brand is, of course, genuine and authentic, right? And what matters at the end of the day is you're intentional, deliberate. That's what writing your story, telling your story is all about. Being very deliberate, being very intentional. You're not random about telling your story. Because randomness doesn't really bring you any of the benefits I just talked about earlier. So the question now is, how do you become intentional? What are the ways for anyone, regardless of level, regardless of industry, how can you take control of your story intentionally? How can you take control of your narrative? So, to me, it's all about three things. So first is community contribution. Second is journey documentation. And the third is content creation. They're all kind of similar, but let me explain. So first, when you contribute to your community, that actively sends a signal that you're very helpful, you're very passionate about what you're doing, you care about the greater collective, and it's not all about you. So this is my own take on it, right? This is on my own take on telling your story. It shouldn't be all about you. So taking control of your story means also contributing to your community. And how do you do that? You as a person, you're completely unique from everyone else. No one else has had experiences in the way that you have. So you have all these things. You have experiences, reflections, learnings, stories, expertise, thoughts, ideas, side projects. You can curate resources. You can give your time. You can give your opinion. You can do volunteer work. You can support people. By sharing any of those, you can contribute to your community. So for example, let's just say, for example, this is my first time giving a talk online, right? If I were thinking in the lens of community contribution with regards to giving a talk online, what I would probably do is, okay, maybe doing this actual talk is, community contribution, right? But another thing that I can do is, after this talk, I can write about the experience. I can write about the challenges of talking in front of the camera, having no audience, the problems of doing a webinar, these challenges and how people can overcome them, right? So I can take that perspective and share it to everyone, write about it and share it to everyone. And that's community contribution. I'm taking control of my story. You can do volunteer work. You can join women tech makers. You can be part of the volunteer group. That also builds your story, right? And here's something not a lot of people do, but it's super effective. So online, there's a lot of noise. Like, you don't know where to look because there's just so much trash out there. So it's quite valuable to other people when you act as a curator. So collecting articles, choosing the right, events, curating the right communities to join, people to follow. That's a strong help to the community when you're able to curate things for them, right? So that's just the community contribution is a huge part of your personal brand, your story, and your reputation. So next is journey documentation. I kind of touched about this with my example earlier. So basically, it's all about documenting either your accomplishments or your failures. So just talking about it is kind of useless, right? But people are interested in the story behind things, the story behind, I don't know, your first job, your first internship, how you got to where you are. Because inherently, there are lessons to learn. It's inherently very entertaining. It's informative, and stories are very powerful. So, what I would suggest is you'd want to document your journey. So, my question is, like, how many times have you wished that you could have taken a photo of something, or that you could have journaled about something, right? So, it's all about documenting the journey. What were parts of your journey, and why do they matter? What are the learnings from it? And what's the unique take? What's your unique angle? What opinion that because of who you are, that you are who you are, can you provide to your audience, to your network, and potentially give value to them out of your unique angle? It's all about documenting your journey. So I think a lot of people are also afraid, anxious, afraid of getting judged by people. Maybe a lot of people are comparing themselves to other people. I think this is very human, and I think it's normal. But then, although it's scary, when you share your journey, when you share your story, when you choose to be vulnerable, um, it really makes you human in the eyes of others. And because of this, they're more likely to trust you, that because you're genuine and you're authentic. So that's the benefit of it. So lastly, and this, I'm quite passionate about this also. It's content creation. So there are tons of ways for people to create content. You can write, you can make videos, you can record audio and do podcasts. You can just tweet. Like literally, there are people who just tweet and they have, I don't know, 1 million followers. Um, you can do status updates. You can do IG stories. You can do webinars, interviews, ask many things, conferences, do slides. All of these are content that's supposed to help other people. That's the point. Um, Part of writing your story and building your reputation. Sorry, there's construction in our house. So part of it is taking content creation seriously, right? We could have a solo talk just about the benefits of blogging for your career. But any of these approaches are fine. It's okay. I think my tip is go with the format that you're very comfortable with, and that you could be consistent with over time. That's what matters. So I'm almost at the end of the presentation, but uh, these three things that I've just mentioned. So community contribution, you can join your local community industry groups. You're documenting your journey. Um, you're writing about what happened in your life, what your recent failures are, and what you learned about it. And you're creating content for other people um, to help them based on what you are good at, right? Because you can't just pull it out of your ass. Um, so all of those point to consistent, permissionless value creation. So consistent means you're doing it again and again. Permissionless means you don't need anyone else's permission to do it. Like, I don't need my mom's permission to do it. I don't need like the permission of design leaders to create content. And I'm creating value. Um, Value is subjective, but at the end of the day, it's all about value for other people. Because you can't really create a strong story, a strong brand, if it's all about you. Yes, that's the point. So I might be talking very theoretical stuff. So I'm just gonna give like practical tips. So I think for beginners or for anyone at any level, you want to be able to practice your writing skills. So that can come in form of writing articles, even writing status updates. Try writing in narrative form, in story form. And whatever you write, it kind of serves as an evidence signal, a portfolio of work of who you are as a person. That's what it means to literally write your story. Second, you want to learn how to do public speaking. I think a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten in my career was because I was able to learn public speaking. So learn how to give a webinar, give a talk online or whatever. This is, for example, this is quite new to me. This is the first time I'm giving a talk online. I normally ride on the energy of my audience. And this is so weird, talking in front of a camera, not being able to see anyone's reaction. So yeah, it's crazy. I'm learning. So you can learn with me. So number 3, you want to create useful stuff for other people. So if you're in tech, or even if you're not in tech, whenever you create side projects, try to build stuff that's actually useful for other people. Right? So, you can curate specific kind of content. Like for example, I'm just thinking out of my head. I can create like a women tech makers website and list down all of the women in tech, who want to be part of that resource list. So I could make that website as a side project, right? And that potentially helps out other people. And that helps you write your story as well. So number 4, you have to share and talk about your work. Because if you don't share and talk about your work, no one will do it for you unless you have a marketing department. Unless you actually hire someone to do it. But whatever you make, you have to be skilled in telling a story about it. It's a skill. Um, no one will talk about your work for you other than yourself. So that's why be intentional. Take control of your narrative. Number 5, you want to document your process. So an example of this would be, for example, for this talk, I would try to document how I outlined the topics I wanted to talk about, or I might document how I did my audio and video setup, or maybe thinking about documenting how I got my first internship, or documenting like if you're a community organizer, maybe you can document your process, right? Like how do you actually gather volunteers? How do you look for volunteers? What's the process behind creating an event? Those kinds of things. You can document that. You can write about it, and people will learn from it, and that builds your story. So number 6, this is really easy. You can just share helpful and relevant articles to your industry and to whoever you want to appeal to. Like, let's say I want to be like a famous badminton person, right? Then what I would do is start training hard. So what I would do is collect articles or videos or content that's about really good badminton players and just post that consistently. Yeah, so that's one thing you can do. So number 7, you can give away stuff for free. Free advice, free thoughts, free opinions. If someone asks you to, give a talk, you can just do it for free. What else? When you're starting out in an industry, I think it's kind of inevitable to sometimes work for free. But of course, I also believe in, let's say, salaries for interns. But 4 out of 5 of my design internships are unpaid, and I gave away stuff for free. But I know that I'm in a privileged position, so whatever you can give for free for your community, it usually helps. So it's quite practical. So whatever you can give. So number 8 is you can create community. So sometimes you will find yourself in a position where there is no existing community for certain things. So my girlfriend, shout out to Trish, she was looking for like a community for people who like Yowamushi Pedal, the anime. And she was looking for it on Reddit, and she found one because she can't find people who were interested in it in Facebook. But then a better example would be, in another scenario, Trish was looking for a community of an anonymous community of doctors where they can provide advice to each other, to upcoming postgrad interns, and different kinds of medical professionals. So she was looking for one, but she can't find one. Cannot find one. So what she did was create it. And she created a subreddit for Pinoy doctors, I think. And now it's a bustling community. Like, it has 100 plus members. It has dedicated moderators, and creating community is such a simple thing to do, but it's very meaningful. It's very powerful, and it serves the collective. And if you're building your story, there's no other more powerful way than to help other people out. That's my opinion. So take control of your narrative. Your story is yours to tell. And that ends my talk. Thank you very much. I don't know if we have Q&A. Okay, no questions so far daw. Mga shoutout lang. So feel free to just ask questions. Oh, from Bella and Saiza. Hi, guys. Oh, please share my page and channel. So you can visit my podcast, Roots. So it's a podcast that profiles world-class designers, world-class Filipino designers. You can visit it at rootspodcast.design, or just search alexiscollado.com/roots. What else? You can visit my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe for my videos. Just search Alexis Collado on YouTube. I make design videos. What else? So I recently opened slots for my newsletter. If you're kind of interested in content like this, I talk about everything I've learned in my life in my newsletter called Trailblazing. And you can join that by going to the link alexiscollado.com/newsletter. So there. That's about it. Oh, we're going to launch our UX Plus conference soon. And we have legendary speakers coming on. I'm very excited. I hope you're very excited. If you want to learn about design, user experience, we have very interesting topics. And we're going to feature, local and foreign speakers. And majority of them are Filipino. And yeah, watch out for that. We're going to launch that soon. So the link is alexiscollado.com /newsletter. Yeah, that's it. Shout out to everyone. Okay, thanks for having me, everyone. Bye.
Inclusive design is thinking about, would everyone be able to interact with that park?
We are smart citizens and let's become smarter together.
And incorporate these practices into your everyday routine.
We really need to help, any possible way that we can.
Because so many of these people out there are suffering, and we're just very blessed.
Women need to feel that they're in the presence of other reliable, responsible, and justice-driven women to further fuel their drive to excel.
If you're improving 1% a day, you'll improve 365% by the end of the year.
Tech is accessible for every Filipino youth, regardless of their gender or socioeconomic status.